Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Thursday, the 9th of Rabi'ul Awwal 1444, corresponding with the English date 6th of October 2022. Hazrat Wala is saying and mentioning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers the commissioning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a great and immense favor and bounty to the Muslim nation. We quote to you from Umdatul Bayan. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Allah bestowed a favor on the believers when He sent in their midst a messenger from amongst themselves. He recites to them His verses and purifies them, meaning from shirk and other evils, and teaches them the book and things of benefit, whereas previously they were certainly in manifest error. So the commissioning of a prophet is a great favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is clear from the above that the commissioning, the bi'athat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a Nabi is an immense and unique favor of Allah to the believers. Through this great prophet and his coming to them, Allah Ta'ala removed people from the pits of animalism and bestiality to the honor and dignity of humanness. He then blessed them with those phenomenal and unparalleled teachings which would place them on the pure path in this world and convey them to the eternally joyful bounties of Jannah. This bi'athat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a favor which is equaled by none. Those who did not value and appreciate this bounty and did not embrace it with their heart and soul are the worst of the wrongdoers and the most unjust. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to speak about an incident of a person who came and he asked the alim that how is it we find more love in our hearts for our parents than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This alim was very, very sharp, witty, intelligent. After some time, he started speaking on the Mubarak life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as he takes this person and captivates him and takes him to a certain level, all of a sudden then he starts speaking about the parents of this person, due to which he himself then says, Maulana, what are you talking about? Continue with the seerah and the beautiful life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So much so that he became angered by that and he wanted the alim to continue speaking about the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is a different, unique love which Allah Ta'ala puts in the heart of every believer. So we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now by rejecting this bounty, these people wronged Allah's right to worship and servitude and wrong Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as regards his prophethood and messengership, his risalat. They also wrong themselves by depriving themselves of success in both worlds and placing themselves on the path of destruction. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from every type of deviation and misguidance, enable us to always tread the path of His pleasure, and may He always keep us under His shadow of mercies and affections in every situation and place. Ameen. Now, haya, we just spoke about how Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Allah Ta'ala made it such that at that time Allah removed us from the pits of animalism and bestiality and blessed us with the honor and dignity of humanness. So al-haya'u shu'batum min al-iman. Haya is a great branch of iman. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb used to tell us that if Allah Ta'ala did not send Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then people would not even know what is cleanliness and purity. He would also quote the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, At-tahuru shatrul iman, that purity, cleanliness is half of your iman. Now it is written here so beautifully, but if we don't understand it now, then the flaw and the fault would be that of ours. So Bi'asat, Allah Ta'ala commissioned Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his birth. What was the maqsad of it? From this ayat and from these talimat, we can understand that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sent for these four purposes. But just to say it customary, what is the use of it? Now in this month of Rabi'ul Awwal, more and more we should understand the maqsad of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam being commissioned, and we should make qadr of the ta'aleem as well, and we should make amal also. In everything you would find the amal of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and how he explained the hukuk to the various categories, the rights of neighbors, rights of parents, rights of the mashayikh, rights of wife and children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all type of deviation. Now a human prophet is in itself a great ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now from the ayat above, which we just quoted there, إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, when he sent in their midst a messenger from amongst themselves. A human prophet in itself is a great favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The words from amongst themselves clarify this important and fundamental reality of reality that a prophet, being a human and from his own people, is in itself an immense favor and kindness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on his servants. Thus Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a human from the Quraysh and from the Banu Hashim, so that people could follow and emulate him in every department of life and in every action. Had an angel who is pure from all human needs and demands been sent, he would not have been able to be an example for the people. After all, he does not eat, drink, get married, have a wife, have children, does not experience hunger, no thirst, and is not affected by heat or cold, and so on. That is the angels. Furthermore, he does not experience and has nothing to do with human impediments. How then could he become an example and a model for human beings? Thus, for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be a human and a mortal is in itself a great bounty and favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he conferred on his creation. This is why the words from among themselves have been mentioned separately. Thus it is a favor upon a favor and a bounty upon a bounty which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred on his servants. Now we're speaking about a human prophet. Human we say Muhammadun basharun la kal bashari bal huwa yaqutun bain al hajari. Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of making the dhikr of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and making mention of him. One Budruk mentioned about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's praise. Muhammad is a human, but not just like any other human. Bal huwa yaqutun bain al-hajari, rather he is like this yaqut, this emerald, this jewel and this gem, this precious stone amongst all other pebbles. He was inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah ta'ala loved this praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and forgave him and all those who had heard this in that particular gathering. Nevertheless, the same saint and Buzruk, wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then made it his practice in every one of his discourses and his majalis. He used to mention this praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Muhammadun basharun la kal bashari bal huwa yaqutun bain al hajari. Now, despite this, there are many people of bid'ah who are not prepared to accept Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a human being. They place so much of emphasis on denying humanness for a Rasul that they have to resort to various types of fabrications for their claims. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the messenger being a human is an immense favor and bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a demand of intellect and natural temperament, so that the world can follow and emulate him, which is the fundamental and real purpose of his coming into the world. Salutations, salawat and salam, salutations and peace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him. The greatness and the importance of reciting verses. So, what did we read? What did we say? إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. We come to the next part. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. This verse demonstrates the importance and the greatness of reciting, tilawat of the verses of the Quran, because it is one of the primary objectives of the Rasool of Allah. The reason why it is such an important obligation is that through the blessings of the messenger's recitation, the minds of people will be illuminated. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with that new nur and illumination, and darkness is removed. There was a Buzruk and he went to a certain place. A person was there reciting the Quran. He addressed him and he said to him, هَذِهِ التِّلَاوَةِ فَأَيْنَ الْبُكَاءِ. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb used to quote this to us abundantly. Hazrat Wala is saying that, listen, this is a recitation, quite so customary. But tell me, where is that kaif? Where is that hal and that spiritual state that comes with recitation? فَأَيْنَ الْبُكَاءِ. Where's the crying and weeping as we go through the ayats of the Quran Majid? Recitation of the verses is thus one of the first objectives of messengership and one of the first obligations of prophethood. Despite this, the ignorant and heedless Muslims of today neither have any time for recitation of the Quran, nor do they have any importance to it. Illa mashallah, except for a few. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worse than this is the claim that of some deviants who say that there is no benefit with mere recitation. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, from the four objectives of commissioning a messenger and a Rasool, the first, which is listed here, is that he recites Allah's verses to the people. This shows that a person is in need of the teaching and coaching of a messenger, even for the recitation of the Quran. We understand that even just for mere recitation, we need a coach and we need a Nabi. And that recitation of the verses is an important objective and goal of this pure deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the importance and greatness of internal purification, which is the next one that comes after that? Yatlu alayhim ayatihi. Then what comes? Wa yuzakkihim. So internal purification is the second major objective and important obligation of nubuwwat. The verse states that the Rasool purifies and cleanses the internal self from impurities of unbelief and shirk, polytheism, and from the base desires and filths of the nafs, because these impurities and filths will cast man into health, cast him into hell, into Jahannam. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, Hazrat Wala, there remarks, and he says, he used to quote to us that narration where people would be in the fire of Jahannam, and suddenly some person will make his entry or will then be flung into fire of Jahannam, due to which all the people and residents of inhabitants of Jahannam then would then be in so much of taklif, and they would say, because such a stench would come at that time, and they would say, what is it? Who's this person that has entered? And what would they be told? They would be told that this person that has been thrown into the fire now was the person who had abhorrent character, terrible character, the worst of character. So their purification is not possible without the benefaction of prophethood. From this we can gauge what a great favor and phenomenal bounty the commissioning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, and which Allah Ta'ala conferred on his creation. All praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sustainer of the universe. Now how unjust and how wrong those people are who turn away from this great favor. Such people are deprived of the light of the truth and guidance, and fall into various types of darkness. They fall from the honorable pedestal of humanity and fall into the disgraceful pit of absolute bestiality. They are deprived of the title of the best of creation and become the worst of the creation. This is the worst loss and a most terrifying failure. We seek refuge in Allah Ta'ala. May Allah Ta'ala always protect us from every type of deviation, slip-ups, loss and failure. Ameen. So Hazrat Maulana Fazlur Rahman Ganj Muradabadi used to quote these couplets, that tar hui bara se suki zameen, that this dry earth became wet with the rains. Yani, I actually mean, Aye Rahmatul Lil Alameen, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made his appearance. Allahu Akbar. He would say, who says that I don't do milad and say milad? This is my milad. Tarhui bara se suki zameen, yani Aye Rahmatul Lil Alameen. Anyway, all of this year, we heard from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, Hazrat Wala is saying, and Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb. It is not only about the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His birth brought his coming. And what was the maqsad of his being commissioned? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what we are going through. This is a wonderful kitab that we are going through. Many years ago I wrote this kitab. I even forgot about it. I picked it up today, this kitab, that Dini Idaro or Jamaato ki Zimidariya. That's the name of the kitab. The responsibilities of religious institutes and organizations. So it was. So we carry on to the next one. The next purpose and maqsad why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent, and that was ta'lim of Quran and Sunnat. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So the importance and the greatness of teaching deen. The importance and greatness of teaching deen is also learned from this verse. Teaching the book and wisdom is the third objective and important obligation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger. This is also that people may learn what the Quran is saying, what it wants from them, and wherein lies their fortune and success. We learn from this that the meanings and implications of the Quran cannot be understood without the teaching and explanation of the Nabi. Consequently, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the Sahaba with his words, actions and practices. Those same teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are known as hadith, which is the first, most important and most reliable explanation and commentary of the Quran. Thus, hadith is a proof, evidence and an important and fundamental source of deen. Rejecting it entails rejecting the deen. We seek al-iyazu billah, refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum were original Arabs and people of authority as regards Arabic, yet they too could not understand the Quran without the teaching and explanation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How then can others understand it on their own? How can a non-Arab of today, who neither knows the Arabic language and its modes of expression, nor did he learn formally under a teacher, claim that he will undertake self-study and understand it? It is outrageous to make such a claim. The Quran is not a book which can be understood by self-study. Had this been possible, the Quran would have been sent down in a form of a complete written book placed before the people, and they would have been told, "Here, read it by yourselves and understand it." But this was not what happened. On the contrary, arrangements were made for the great and unparalleled teacher and tutor who was trained and tutored for 40 years in a unique manner. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself says in this regard, "Addabani Rabbi fa ahsana ta'atibi." Allah has taught me etiquette in the most beautiful manner. Anyway, this verse explains the grand status of prophethood and the four objectives of the bi'sat and commissioning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that the world may realize this, value this bounty, embrace it, and be able to make it the means of their success in both the worlds. Tawfiq billah. Inspiration is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. We learn from the above that the teaching of the true deen is the fundamental objective and mission of a Rasool, because through it the true path and guidance become clear. Hazrat Maulana Irshad Sahib Kashmiri has written so well. We continue a special angle to the greatness of the bi'sat and commissioning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are told in the verse under discussion, that these people were certainly and definitely in error before this. For a great and extraordinary messenger like this to be sent to them increases the extent of Allah's favor to them. The ignorance and deviation of these people can be gauged from the fact that they used to worship idols which had been made from their very or by their very own hands. They used to call them for the fulfillment of their needs and the removal of their problems. They used to bow down before them and ask them for their needs. They used to follow false premises, eating unlawful and filthy things, burying their daughters alive, killing their children, and then the list goes on. It is an absolute fact and a glaring reality that before the advent of Islam, the Arab were ignorant about deen and Sharia, were deprived of the wealth of the truth and guidance, and completely unaware of prophethood and messengership. They were wandering in darkness and unbelief, a shirk and ignorance. For a long period of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His grace, kindness, affection, and consideration, guided the Arabs to through the commissioning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, removed them from the valleys of misguidance and deviation, and put them onto the straight path of guidance and the truth. In such a situation, for a person to turn away from the true deen and disregard it smacks of real ingratitude and is a major injustice. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now here in another ayat Allah ta'ala is saying, يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ الْمَلِكِ الْقُدُّوسِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَكِيمِ. Actually it's the same ayat that we quoted earlier. هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. Whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth glorifies Allah, the Sovereign, the Holy, the Mighty, the Wise. It is He who raised among the unlettered people a messenger from amongst themselves, reciting to them His verses, purifying them and teaching them the book and wisdom. Before this, they were in manifest error. You know, one person came to Allahabad and he was speaking about suluk and tasawwuf. It was a jalsa, and then some people remarked and went on to say that you're saying tazkiyah all the time. What is this tazkiyah? So a very prominent person then answered and replied that the whole Quran is filled with this word tazkiyah. Then too you do not understand tazkiyah? Allahu Akbar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with qadr for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, appreciating him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and hidayat of appreciating the Quran, the Shari'at, and also understanding the Shafa'at and intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In this month specifically, we should speak more about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah ta'ala give us afiyat darain because of the barakat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now the author of Fathul Bari, Allama ibn Hajar, says that Muhabbatullahi ala qismain, faradun wa nudubun. But he also carries on to go and say that the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can also be put into two categories, one of a necessary type and one of a nafal type. The kitabs are here, but is there any person who can read, who wants to read these kitabs? Is there anyone there who will listen to these kitabs? Hazrat Tanwi had said that I have written a Nashrut Tib of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his praise and about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that we should read it in these months. Allah Ta'ala accept this reading and listening this waz. Allah Ta'ala, you know this fuyuz and barakat, it will continue until the day of Qiyamah. Allah Ta'ala bless us with it. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-yusr wal-mu'afat fi ad-dunya wal-akhirah fasahhil ya ilahi kull sa'bin bihurmati sayyidil abrar sahhil sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim bihurmati sayyidin nabiyyil kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.